disproportionate carrying out of the law and disproportional justice going on at the state right now. And on top of that, about the entry to barrier, right, ladies and gentlemen, and on top of this lowering entry barrier, we also talked about extensively on TY speech how race becomes an extremely important matter, right? Now, people don't see the uniform, they see the race, right? They're still going to have the hatred for the white officers or the Latino officers and have an affection relatively, if we accept their model, for black officers. And we think that's still a problem, right? Because that significantly lowers the effectiveness of the police force, which is exactly my argument, which is going to be about how it doesn't guarantee, but rather harms security of citizens and society. And I want to explain this argument on 3 levels of analysis. Now, first of all, we need to also realize that it's extremely difficult when we have a significantly high increase in the ratio of certain minority officers. We need to also realize that, especially in countries like the United States, or especially in countries where minorities do exist, we need to also realize that they're not spread out evenly, right? Communities have a high concentration of, for example, Asians, for example, Latinos, and for example, blacks. And in these communities, no, thank you, sir, you're going to have a police force that's predominantly black, predominantly Latino, or predominantly white or Asian. But that problem is, it's pretty much impossible to find that force in the first place. One, then you would have to relocate officers from a different region, which is a disincentive for them to come in that place in the first place. And secondly, now even when they accept officers from that region, no thank you, sir. One, these communities, because they're so closely knit and uniform, are going to view these people who join the forces that have been antagonizing them as traitors, and now they're ousted from the community and they lose effectiveness as a diplomat from that point on. And no thank you, sir. And on top of that, when we have entrance of lack of qualified applicants, then that also causes a lot of problems as well. One, because they're not qualified enough to protect the security of communities in the first place. But on a second level analysis about these underqualified people, what happens when people who are underqualified to have that authority gain that authority? We see 2 main scenarios. One, there's abuse of power. These people start abusing their power under their unqualified status and start taking briberies from their black brothers or from their homes or homies, right? And on the second case, sometimes it becomes extremely easy for informants or even members of ethnic gang members to enter the police force. And in fact, this is the top 2 reason why police officers are discharged in the state of California, where ethnic violence and gang violence is most rampant. And that's exactly the kind of phenomenon that we already see, and their solution is only going to make that worse. So officers, one, no thank you, are one, either going to be taking bribes and they're going to be ineffective, or 2, they're going to be part of the gang members and helping these gang members. And on a third level of analysis, let's give them everything. Let's bite the bullet and let's assume that these police officers are going to be pretty qualified and they're going to have a well-intention to bring about justice within society. But now what's going to happen? They know that this policy is in place because of, for example, police brutality. They know that they've been hired because there exist issues of racial conflicts. Now what they do is they self-appoint themselves to become guardians of their race. They self-appoint them. Now they feel a responsibility that they need to solve the problems that their brothers or their fellow religious followers are having within the status quo. So what they do is that because they perceive him or herself as a racial hero, they lose fairness, right? Because now they impose weaker punishments, disproportional weaker punishments upon people of their own race, and they, to balance out the brutality, hand out harsher punishments to people of the different race. And what it does is that it further creates and widens the schism between different religions and different sects. And what we see is police vigilantism, in which in-line police officers are taking the justice that should be evaluated by the courts and by higher legal authorities under existing laws and protocols. And ladies and gentlemen, we think that's a problem, and we don't have we have disproportional justice going on, which is also harms the security of our communities. And it just also feeds on to Taeyeong's argument about how it creates an even bigger division within the police forces between races, between religions. And all in all, we're going to have an ineffective police force, and we're going to have a police force that in fact harms the local security, which is why, Mr. Speaker, we're very proud to oppose. Thank you very much.
Speakers for 7 minutes and 17 seconds. I think that the Leader of Opposition now like to call upon the government speakers. Yeah, do that.
Sorry. Ready? Yeah. Okay. Okay, JD, so we came up with a massive problem that there is a systemic problem, ladies and gentlemen, against racial minorities. We talked to you about instances of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, for example, and Ferguson, and the fact that in 2017, the Federal Justice Department probed on Chicago's police department and concluded that regularly the police force used excessive force against blacks and Latino residents. Therefore, the conclusion is that this is absolutely a race issue, ladies and gentlemen, even if you want to deny it. But more importantly, if you're claiming that you're supporting things like Black Lives Matter, are they telling us then that they agree that this is indeed a racial issue to begin with? There are two problems that we talked to you about as what the Prime Minister said. The first one is, how do you change the mindset? We do agree with you that that's a problem that we have to address. But the second thing which we talked to you about is a problem of retaliatory attacks against the police force, for example, because of the cop killings, etc. How are you going to address that? That's the reason why alliances are actually very important. Let's take a look at what the negative batch actually tried to do in order to ameliorate these particular problems if they really did anything to begin with. But let's move on to the first issue. How do you change mindsets? We agree with that. You have to change it. But again, what are they doing to address that particular mindset, ladies and gentlemen? We told you that the problem of the mindsets is largely because of stereotypes and dangerous belief systems that black are criminals or minorities are criminals who actually make snap judgments and actually immediately retaliate or attack, and that black people will always have guns with them. Therefore, the best thing for policemen to do is to actually shut it down. These are the things that happen in Missouri, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the reason why we think that stereotypes like these are hardened by lack of actual human interaction with these particular races. White officers, for example, see these people as the other, ladies and gentlemen. They don't really see them for who they are.